My name is Alexis Eisenhofer. I also welcome you on behalf of the entire team of Financial.com and THG Screen. When we, Evert Jan and myself, when we started 12 years ago, we were only a small group of market data people, but this has grown to over 1,300. I think the current list of the participants is well above 1,300, so almost pre-pandemic level. A lot has happened since we last met 3 years ago. We've seen the pandemic, and this has disrupted many supply chains, but this has also fundamentally changed our daily work. Many of us are working from home, so we have a live stream. I welcome everyone at home on our website DKF2022. When we started planning for this event, there was still peace in Europe, and 3 years ago the attack on the Ukraine started, and this has even shaken our lives much more than the pandemic. And we wish that this war will stop soon, and there's a refugee center nearby here, so everyone can see what's going on. So this is in the heart of us all. We have chosen the topic, the reshaping of the financial world beyond the pandemic, decentralization and deinstitutionalization of financial services. But the war has exacerbated the effects of the pandemic, so we are experiencing a phase of greater inflation. With the introduction of ESG measures, the financial industry has undergone a fundamental change to face the climate change, and this is an addition to the current stress. So the war and the inflation is making things even harder. There's a large redistribution of wealth going on. It's not only among states, especially in the European Union, but also within individual societies. Social stress is increasing. It's not getting any easier for policymakers, and so there will be many topics for us today to discuss. We have prepared 30 presentations and 3 panel discussions over the course of this day. You can find the agenda in the handout, which is on our website, DKF2022. And we have no corona measures, as I can see. Only a few people are wearing masks. If you want to have a mask, we have prepared, so there are some masks available at the front desk. Before we start, I want to thank all sponsors. Without them, we couldn't host this event, so it's great to have you here. Thanks to Bloomberg, Phoenix, and ICE Data Services for being the platinum sponsors. And please take your time to see their booth. We have a lot of networking time, lunch break, so the exhibition hall is in the first floor. You can see their booth. And we have a nice feature, by the way. This is we had this a couple of years ago, and then the company somehow withdrew, and we're really happy to have them back. This is a name tag, a touch device. You can tap it to someone you want to meet. Then you exchange contact details. You can, after the event, you can collect this data on a website. It's really nice. So we will make plenty of contacts. I think we had on average 30 to 40 contacts. It's really nice. Now I would like to introduce Patricia Torres of Bloomberg. I've not seen her here. Patricia, can you hear me? She is about to give the keynote, but where is she? Patricia. I've seen her tonight, so she's in Munich. She flew in from London, so it's a long trip, but she made it yesterday to the Franziskaner. We had a very night. Thanks for being back. There were many people a long time in the Franziskaner and had a couple of beer, but work hard, play hard, all of you are here, but not Patricia.
Maybe she's also not aware of that it's here.
I don't know.
Today we expected to get
okay.
the opening speech.
Okay. What does... I could not speak on the keynote topic, ESG. Mario? Can anyone? Okay, then let's have a 3 to 5 minutes break. I look for Patricia. Thank you. Thank you for being here. So can you hear me? Yeah, now it's good. Yeah, I was just told that even her colleagues from Bloomberg cannot find Patricia. I hope that she's on her way. I can only ask for your patience. Should be here in 5 minutes. Yeah, I'm not a comedian, so I cannot entertain you. I'm sorry, but if there's someone around, we would have some time. Oh, I just got an update. It's 5 minutes, so we can have a countdown ticker. Yeah, so sorry for that. So this is maybe, yeah, there wasn't a rehearsal, so we have no training. This might be due to the Corona break. So 3 years, no events. Yeah, at home it's quite easy. I mean, at home you can directly enter the living room of the people, and there you just connect it on the go. Yeah, but here you need to gather and physically, and this might be not so easy for many of us, or at least for this event. Ronald? 5 minutes. 5 more minutes. And maybe I can tell you some details that might be important to you. We have a Wi-Fi, so those of you who want to connect to the Wi-Fi, there's a Wi-Fi 12 DKF. What? Yeah, there's a Wi-Fi, and the Wi-Fi code is just as the name of the Wi-Fi. So it's 12 minus DKF minus something. So then you could easily connect. And then, yeah, I just want to say that yesterday we had a Bavarian night at the Franziskaner in the city center, and it was nice having 200 people meeting again. And since we are their regulars, they invited us to the Oktoberfest this year. So we have been granted 200 seats. Sorry, can you hear me? We have been granted 200 seats at the Schützenzelt. The Schützenzelt is, I would say, the most famous one at the Oktoberfest. It's well for 5,000 people, so it's not the super tent. It's cozy, but it's also very nice, and age group 30 to 50, I guess. And So we have a reservation for 22nd, I guess, 22nd of September. And if you're interested to join us, then just let us know. We have a registration list on dkf.events/Oktoberfest. There you can enter your email address on a mailing list and you will get a notification. Yeah? And for those of you who are non-Munich residents, Oktoberfest is a bucket list event. Yeah? So you cannot, if you retire and you've not been to the Oktoberfest, this is a no-go. Yeah? So we have many people coming from the States, from New York, from Toronto, from London. And for us in Munich, it's great to host them at the Oktoberfest. We will have a Lederhosen and a Dirndl. Many of you already have a Lederhosen. If not, I can give you some nice ideas of where to buy the best Lederhosen. I grew up in south of Munich and I was part of a Burschenverein. Burschenverein is it's a group of bachelors and many of them are known to be good beer drinkers. I'm not. But the main goal for this group is to set up the maypoles, and to keep up the Bavarian tradition. And so this is nice. So I have a Lederhosen. I can get you a Lederhosen. And we have 200 seats. And I think it will be 20 tables. 20 tables, each of them having their own cable captain. So we want to have some business talk, at least until the first mass. Yeah? Is drunken. Yeah, so I mean, the longer you stay at the Oktoberfest, the less content you can provide. That's the matter of fact. Yeah? But you can also have a non-alco. I always opt for the non-alco. This is available in every tent without Augustiner tent. So Augustiner, they do not serve non-alco beer. They only have Augustiner beer. Yeah, so this will be a nice event. I'm really looking forward to it, and I hope that all of you register on our website, and so you will get instant notification. Yeah. So, another 5 more minutes. No. Oh no, yeah, it's 6 minutes then. Yeah. Yeah, he just told me that 9 would be the starting time, but it's only 6 minutes, so please stay here. So Can I tell you some anecdotes I'm thinking of? Anecdotes on the DKF. Yeah.
We could consider do the panel discussion first.
Let's wait for 9. Just, I mean, I can tell you some anecdotes on how we started this event 12 years ago. And this has a nice story, and many of you might not know it. I mean, I founded the Münchner Finance Forum in 2005, and this is a gathering of institutional investors and asset managers here in Munich at the Technical University, at the main lecture hall. And my basic goal was to have my professor, my academia friends connected to me, and so this is a nice event, but this was more or less focusing on asset management. And then in 2011, it was basically Susanne Fröhlich. Is she around? She's not here. Susanne Fröhlich of Allianz, IDS, and myself, we thought of adding an event for market data people in Munich, because there was only one event in Frankfurt, and it was a side event at the Insurance and Banking Fair. And this event was struggling in the aftermath of the financial crisis. And then we thought of getting this group to Munich. We have chosen Munich because I'm from Munich and I have my network in Munich. And then we made it a virtue. We said Munich is in the center of Frankfurt, Zurich, and Vienna. So and this is the reason why we invite all people from the DACH region, the German-speaking region. And this was a nice idea, because then all international vendors thought that it's easy for us to address the whole community with one event. Oh, there she is, Patricia. Good to have you. Come. And so I'm just telling a little anecdote. So and then she needs to get her mic. Yeah. And then then we had thought of getting this event to Munich. And thanks to Susanne Fröhlich, I had the backing of a major data consumer, Allianz, and I met Kees Breumans of Screen, and Evert-Jan ten Brundel. They were hosting events in Amsterdam. And I said, hey, I will get you guys to Munich. You will bring the sponsors. I will bring the people. And so we started here in this location. And yeah, this has grown to, in terms of in the numbers of attendees, it's grown to the largest market data event globally. The North American Financial Information Summit has some 500 attendees. The Asian Pacific in Hong Kong has 450. The World Financial Information Conference, some 400. Yeah, and we had, thanks to Ronald, he's over here. Yeah, so he's the power horse, yeah, attracting so many vendors. And we had close to 1,000 people, yeah, on the floor. And yeah, thank you. It's you. Thank you. And it's even growing. Yeah? I've not seen the latest number. I think we are well above 1,300 registrations. So I don't know, maybe some no-shows, but we will reach pre-pandemic level, hopefully. Yeah, if not, then yeah, keep pushing. And yeah, word of mouth is appreciated. So if you like this event, tell others. If you don't like it, tell me. And yeah, thanks for being here. So, and now I have seen Patricia. So it was good. I could talk about the anecdotes and the history of this event. So this is really nice because otherwise they wouldn't know. Yeah, because this is something you don't tell. And yeah, I'm really happy to have you, to have Bloomberg here as the platinum sponsor, to have you in this event and giving the keynote on ESG. I have prepared some intro. No, I forgot. No, I hope I remembered correctly. Otherwise, you have to correct me. Yeah? So you are heading the ESG data division at Bloomberg? No. No? but oh, close. Okay, but you're. On LinkedIn, I saw your profile, and you're leading, or you're at least a board member. Yes, Sustainable Finance Council. Yeah, and then you also have a group of London businesswomen. Yeah, yes. Really good to see this because we have a DKF women event, side event. So Sibylla, she's around. She is taking care of this group, so we want to network. I mean, I only see few women, so we need to grow. Yeah, and yeah, it's both. It's finance and IT. This is you know, and so we definitely need to grow this. Yeah, we have colleagues in India, and in India you would see many female developers. So this is nice, and so it's not so asymmetric. Okay, I leave it with this. Yeah. So thanks again for being here, and Patricia. The stage is yours.
I have a problem, though.
Oh.
I don't have slides.
I don't.
Can we send the slides over here at least?
So.
And then open them here?
It's
no?
not possible because of the access we don't have from your colleague. We are waiting for your colleague.
Okay, it's going to be fun. I have half an hour with no slides. First time ever. Okay. I'm going to start by imagining you are seeing slides in the screen. Anyway, so the first slide that I had for you was a book. The book is called The Ministry for the Future. Have you read the book at all? The Ministry for the Future? Hands up if you have read the book. No? Nobody? So it actually was one of Barack Obama's favorite books in 2020. And it's a climate fiction book. And the first chapter starts with a huge heat wave in India with very high temperatures. And the heat wave with high levels of humidity killed 20 million people. And it's quite a distressing book, to be honest. So if you end up reading the book, have a strong stomach, because it's a very, very heavy book. But the problem that we see is that actually, I don't know how many of you read the news on May 12. May 12 was Sunday. And there's a huge heat wave in India right now. And one of the stories was talking about 19 million people in India actually facing this huge heat wave that is forecasted to reach 50 degrees Celsius. So the other slide I was going to show you was about US, the wildfires in the US. As you probably have seen, so we're looking at the number of fires in the US since 2012 to 2022, from January to May. And again, 2022 had the highest number of fires since 2012. And the reason is because of high temperatures, drought, and heat. And then what happened last year in Germany? Can anyone remember the date where we have huge floods in Germany? If the memory doesn't fail me, I think it was July 16th. Huge heat wave, huge floods, heavy rain, and 100 people got killed in Germany. So so I think this is the most important thing, is that we don't have time to wait. There's no time to wait. And a lot of people talk about urgencies, but I think the key message is we need to take action today. And the action starts with each one of us. So, for example, with us, we have our founder, Mike Bloomberg. So Mike Bloomberg is an inspiration for all of us. He has given more than $1 billion of his own money to fight climate change. Many of you may know that he's the chairman of TCFD, is the co-chair of the Glasgow Financial Net Zero Alliance. His money, with his own personal money, is paying for the Secretariat of G Funds. We're going to be in COP27 in Egypt because we only have one planet. And I think that's the key message for me, is that there's only one planet. It's planet Earth. There's no planet B. So there's no point of us sending people to the space and trying to find another planet to live when we have one planet that we can save. So when you translate this to money, you think about ESG. So when you think about the growth of the market in the ESG market, you think about what is the size of the market today. So the market today, people have put monies around $38 trillion. And our Bloomberg intelligence team estimates the ESG, so AUM linked to ESG, to reach up to $53 trillion by 2025. When you look in the fixed income side for sustainable debt, what you see is that this market is worth more than $4 trillion today. And it took us 12 years to issue the first $1 trillion. And then in 3 years, you actually have done $3 trillion on top. If you look at the ESG ETFs, we actually have seen net flows. It's probably ESG was the only category that is actually getting net inflows since the war started. And we estimate ESG ETFs to reach to $1 trillion by 2025. So that's the good news. The good news is I think there's a huge appetite to invest in ESG. But there's one critical problem that we currently have today, which is greenwashing. So is ESG the equivalent of greenwashing? How can we ensure, so asset managers and investment managers out there, how can we actually protect ourselves from actually having greenwashing? And there was a gentleman that we hosted. So we hosted an event on Bloomberg, Bloomberg Intelligence event, May 5th. And Sir Chris Hone said, let's be honest, let's stop pretending. There's only one test, and the test is, are carbon emissions rising or falling? Okay, carbon emissions are rising, they're not falling. And that's the acid test, so stop pretending. So when you say that you have ESG overlays, are you truly committed to lowering the CO2 emissions? What are you doing to lower that value? How are you engaged with companies to actually force that CO2 reduction? So I'm the global head. We have a presentation? Oh my God, I'm going to be saved. Okay, that's good. So I lead the product development for ESG. I'm not the global head for ESG data, but so my job is to make sure that the terminal that you have in front of you has good data, has ESG data that you can trust, that is trustworthy. And you also have functionality and analytics that actually gives you a crude reality of where the world is today. So we have indices. So my job is to ensure that ESG is in indices, ESG is in our OMS, ESG is in our port enterprise solutions, that ESG is fully weaved in everything that we do at Bloomberg. So when I was speaking with customers around the world, I normally have a box, and you'll see it like in a second. I think it's 4 times 3, 12. I think it's, anyway, 9 or 12. Okay, excellent. Okay, this is the book. So that's the Ministry for the Future. Awesome. So this is the, oops, it's not showing here though. Almost there. Okay, but I have the slides now. That's a plus. Yes, we got it. Finally. Okay, so this is the news story. Okay, so Sunday, 19 million people struggle to cope with killer temperatures. And the book is climate fiction, but this is reality. So I think we all have to wake up for the reality. This is the wildfires that I was talking to you about in 2022. And look at the number. It's 20,000. It's not 20, it's 20,000 fires since January to May. The floods, you probably know this picture very well, unfortunately, where 100 people died. And I was talking to you, I didn't touch these. So this is Sophie Institute. And they are looking at two scenarios. The green color is if the temperature is maintained at well below 2. Okay, so if we reach 2,100, where the temperature is well below 2. The purple is when the temperature goes to 4.5 to 5. And you can see that China, for example, in a world where we keep ourselves controlled and we control the CO2 emissions, China will probably lose 2 notches in their credit rating. But if you go to a world where the temperature suddenly rises to 5 degrees, go up by 5 degrees, you actually almost lose 7. You probably are like in bankruptcy anyway. And this is Germany. So Germany is more or less okay in the short term if we really control, if we join forces. But in a world where the temperature goes up, it probably is close to losing 4 notches. But what's the problem here? The problem is China. China represents 33% of the total CO2 emissions today. So even if Germany controls and do their fair share, this is a problem, this is a global problem. This is not a problem just about one country. This is what makes it much harder. So it's no longer about urgency, it's time to take action. And this is our founder. So this is him taking action and making sure that we together and through the forums that we have, through our engagement with policymakers, with regulators, with investors, with institutions around the world, we drive the ESG policy agenda. So ESG is in our DNA. It's not just something that we do just to add something to the terminal. So that's the agenda for today. This is just the 53 trillion that I was talking to you about. The total issuance now is 4 trillion, and this is an amazing chart that you actually see how much the sustainable debt issuance has grown. And then you have the ESG ETFs, the net inflows that we have seen, and then the fact that we are going to be reaching and surpassing the $1 trillion. So the theme, so these are my boxes here, so the 9 boxes. So the first theme, so when I speak with customers around the world and trying to understand exactly the roadmap, what I should be building, how can I help the investors, how can I help them and support them in their ESG journey, we have 9 themes. One is data quality. Okay? It's really important, data consistency, the fact that there's no transparency, quality on disclosure, regs. I think that if I ask maybe half of here, like what is the worst nightmare that they have, what is keeping them at night is regulations and then reporting. How can I report European taxonomy? How can I report on SFDR? Net zero, biodiversity, the social aspect, ESG integration, we call it ESG overlay. It's no longer about negative screening. In the past, ESG started by saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to call my ESG fund if I no longer invest in fossil fuels. Okay, but that's not ESG investing, that's negative screening. So now this is changing and we're actually going to start seeing more and more people understanding what ESG means. There's a fun fact actually. Last week I was in Amsterdam at a conference and Invesco actually was saying, do you know how many retail, so when we ask a question of people in the street buying funds, do you know how many people recognize the word ESG? Out of 100 people, only 18% were able to explain what E meant, S meant, and G meant. So this is a problem. Okay? ESG ETFs seeing record growth. We have ESG integration is no longer just on the equities, it's across all the different types of asset classes that companies are managing. ESG reporting, top priority in terms of investment when you speak to the buy side, and corporate engagement. You cannot call yourself an active player if you don't have a strong corporate engagement policy. So challenges. So this is Sir Chris Hone saying that the acid test is actual emissions. Are they falling or are they rising? So let's talk about the challenges. And I'm going to be using Bloomberg, of course, as a source of the data that I'm going to show you. So the first thing is data disclosure. How good or bad is data disclosure? And I'm going to be using the bread and butter of ESG, CO2 emissions, okay? Total scope 1 plus scope 2. And I'm even saying, well, even if the company does not disclose greenhouse gas emissions, are they disclosing CO2 emissions, okay, which is a fraction, which is a high percentage, but not the totality of the greenhouse gas emissions. So you see the UKX is UK, DAX, Germany, SXP is the 600 European, CAC, France, SPX is S&P 500, World, and China. And as you can see, the disclosure of CO2 data varies dramatically, coming from the FTSE being the highest with 100 companies disclosing 94% of the companies disclosing CO2 to China only 37%. What about data quality? This is a great example of a company in Malaysia that basically said, this is my CO2, my greenhouse gas emissions is this value, 87 million CO2. But what's the problem? CO2 is not a unit, okay? It's not a unit. A unit has to be a volume or weight. And then based on that volume or weight, we then can compute what the CO2 emissions are. And because of that, we're not pushing that data on the terminal. So if you pull up this company on the terminal today, you don't see the data. You don't see the data because we, Bloomberg, we don't think the data is good, is of good quality. And for us, that's paramount to our mission. The other thing that I wanted to share with you is audited. How many companies actually go through the process of asking an independent organization to audit their ESG data? It's very important because we see errors all the time, fat fingers. The total is not equal to the sum of the parts. In the CAC index, we have 95%, DAX 83%. If we go to S&P 500, we now only have 42% of the companies are actually paying somebody else to audit their ESG data. But this is going to change in Europe because of the European taxonomy. European taxonomy is coming. So let's take a look at European taxonomy. So I'm going to start with this greenish color first, and then I'm going to go to the top on the blue color. So on the greenish color, you say you are going to see the 4 steps that you need to do. The first one is eligibility. The second one is substantial contribution. The third one is do no significant harm. And the fourth one is minimum social safeguards. So for those of you that are not aware about what European taxonomy is, you need to understand, does my company derive revenues from sustainable activities? So the first thing is, okay, what are the sustainable activities? And in this case, we have RWE, a very famous company like in Germany, and you see that they actually have reported data. They said that in terms of revenue that is eligible to be tested, they say that they reported 18%. We, Bloomberg, we have estimated 17%. And then when we do the calculation, so for those of you that are really geeks and want to actually go deeper into European taxonomy, you can actually Google it, European Compass, European Taxonomy Compass. And on the Compass, they actually give you every single test you need to conduct to see if that revenue passes the threshold or not. So in this case, for RWE, the threshold is high, and therefore out of the 17% that we have estimated, only 3 actually pass the substantial contribution. So now you are pros in European taxonomy. Everybody knows what European taxonomy is now. So let's go and have fun. Okay, so there's also something here at the bottom that actually says that the expectations in the market is that you have to start reporting eligibility this year, and next year you have to report alignment, okay? Alignment is the blue box on the top. Is when you do the 4 things and you say, now this is my alignment. And why is this important? Because if you have an SFDR, Article 8 or 9 fund, that is an environmental fund, you have to start reporting on European taxonomy alignment, even though the requirements will only come later in January 23rd, okay? But you have to start understanding what this is. So the key question is, okay, how many companies are reporting? And how much data do I actually have in the market now? So we look at the sample of 2,254 companies in Europe. Of those, 158 have started reporting taxonomy data. Of those, 152 have reported eligibility, 20 alignments, and only 12 follow the Annex 2 that you are required to use when reporting this data, okay? So let's take a look at DAX. How many companies have reported eligibility for DAX? 10. And Bloomberg has estimated, with all the data that we actually have data for the 40. And how many actually have reported alignment? Only 3, and we were able to compute 16 of those companies with a substantial contribution alignment. Now, for those of you, now this is, because I want this session to be interactive. So I told you about substantial contribution, that you have to start disclosing taxonomy alignment. What is the percentage that you think DAX has in terms of taxonomy alignment? So when you pull up, and I'm using the substantial contribution, so our number. So out of these 16 companies, right, what is the total percentage of alignment that you think DAX has? How many people think is higher than 10%? Hands up. I have a few, okay. How many people think it's higher than 5? Hands up. And how many people think it's lower than 5? Okay. I think the bit higher than 5 was probably the winner here, but I'm going to tell you, it's 0.3%. That's the number. That's the number. That's the current reality. Okay, let's not forget, okay, taxonomy alignment is still not required today. It's going to come in 2023, right? And I think this is the message. The message is, we are starting. We have to start somewhere. I'm also going to talk to you about challenges. And when we look at the challenges, so I'm going to a neutral space now. I'm going to Spain to make sure that I'm not using any, any company like, in Germany. So unless there's some Spanish people here, like in the room. But I'm going to be using the Turgi Energy gas utility in Spain, okay? Take a look at the number 1. How much revenue is eligible to be tested? We said it was 88%. The company said 10. And look at the 10. The 10 is actually what we estimated in terms of substantial contribution. So let's take a look at the document. So this is what we have. So now on Bloomberg, there's a function called CCB that allows you to see the revenue segmentation and tells you with the green tree if they're eligible or not, and if you actually had enough data to actually test that particular node of revenue. And this is what the company has reported. And by the way, this European taxonomy report was audited by one of the big 4s, just letting you know. But take a look at a couple of things. First of all, it says A2, taxonomy eligible, but not environmental sustainable activities. Okay, so the only thing that it had to do was eligibility. Then they also have this thing called F. F does not exist in European taxonomy. There's only a letter E and a letter T. E for enablement and T for transition. Okay? And then the other thing that is a problem, okay, is these ineligible activities according to the taxonomy. We don't have a clear comparison between the IFRS revenue segmentation and the taxonomy segmentation. So if companies start reporting that 90% of the revenues is not eligible, we no longer have transparency how they are actually deriving their money. Okay, climate. Carbon footprint, CO2, okay? When you think about climate, think about CO2 and carbon footprint. Hands up. You have $1 million, okay? And you have 2 options. And you are conscious about CO2 because you believe you have to control the CO2 emissions in the world. Where would you invest, FTSE or DAX? Hands up. Who invests in FTSE? Okay, national, okay. Who invests in DAX? The majority? Okay, let's take a look. Actually, the DAX is by far the most capital intensive in terms of CO2. For $1 million of CO2, if I'm looking at the GAG investment, you are actually getting 116 tons of CO2 versus 71 tons for the FTSE 100. And I've just used our BQuant app, our Jupyter notebook with Python, to actually put this application together. This is a different one, okay? This is portfolio alignment. How many of you have heard about science-based targets initiatives? Several people in the room? Okay, great. So we are actually using the science-based targets initiatives to compute and translate companies' targets into temperatures. So if you think about Shell, what are the company targets for Shell for 2030, for 2040, for 2050? And then what I've done is that I've summed up all the companies for CAC, for DAX, UK, the 600 companies in Europe, and the 500 for the US and China. Okay? And I put it these colors, the green, the yellows, and the reds, because I like, this is more or less safe, between 1.5 and 1.75. This is dangerous anyway, 1.75 to 2.25. Higher than 2.25, this is red. This is like a hothouse. And you can see from the midterm line, which is the light blue line, or the light green line here, that, we're more or less around 2 degrees, 2.2, more or less. But on the short term line is higher, And the longer term, which is the 2050 line, is even higher. So I think my message is we have to have short-term targets. There's no way we know we're going to end up in the 2030 if we don't have a short-term target. And this is the main message, that this problem cannot be solved by the next COO or by the next CEO. This problem has to be solved by the current CEO with the current targets. The next one is ETFs. So in terms of ETFs, I told you about the growth. That was really big. The problem with the ETFs, and say, what is the main challenge of investing in ESG ETFs? ESG analysis, no consistency. Okay, let's take a look. A couple of ESG ETFs now, by far the largest by AUM. Do you see any rule? Some people say, I don't want to invest in Apple. Others say Amazon. Other people say Tesla, Google. And the question is, but why? Why is no consistency on ESG ETFs? So Bloomberg did, and then the other thing that we ask is, how do you choose an ESG ETF? What is your factor? And they say, I'm using an ESG ETF based on an ESG score. Okay, let's take a look. So we, Bloomberg, our Bloomberg intelligence team, created a scorecard. And we have given metrics to the letter E, metrics to the letter S, and the letter G. And then we put a lot of these indices through our scorecard. And guess what we saw? So we saw that in Europe, in our scorecard, the ESG ETFs go from 7.84 to 7.08. Okay-ish. The discrepancy is not big. But look at the US. The best goes to 7.57. The lowest now is at 5.82 at Vanguard US ESG. And then when you go to Asia, it's even worse. You know, you have the maximum points that these ESG ETF in Asia gets is 3 points out of 10. And the lowest is 1.48, and the MSCI emerging market gets a score of 2. That's the issue. The issue is greenwashing, right? What are these guys doing? What is the ESG overlay that they are claiming to call themselves an ESG ETF? Okay, sustainable debt. We're almost there on the challenges. 2 more challenges. Sustainable debt. We have huge growth of sustainable debt, as I mentioned to you, and the biggest one is green debt, is green bonds. So it's more than 33%. More than a third. Then I look at the market, and I'm actually going to be a little bit stricter than just green bonds. I'm actually going to say they have to pass the box of the core components. So the use of proceeds have to be green, the process for projects evaluation, management of proceeds, and reporting. So this is what we call the global green bonds principles, and this is the evolution. The question, where is Germany? So the volume was 500 billion in 2021, and 157 billion in 2022. Is Germany number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? Any guess? Any guess? No? Number 2 in 2021, and number 2 in 2022. So great, Germany, you are doing something really good, which is you are actually supporting and raising money to fund your green recovery. That's awesome. Let's take a look at an example. I'm looking at KfW, a development bank that came to market very recently on the 28th of April 2022 with these bonds. Let's take a look. So what are they investing? So they pass the core components. Everything is green, and they are investing in project categories like renewable energy, energy smart technologies and energy efficiency, clean transportation, solar, wind, hydro, etc. And see-through was the second-party opinion provider. Okay, great. Is there greenium? So if I issue a green bond, am I paying a lower yield? Yes or no? Is the market working? Yes, the market is working. They actually, so when I looking at just the bonds higher than 1 billion, between 7 to 10 years, the green yield is lower than the brown yield. So the market is growing. Last one, ESG scores and ESG ratings. That's a very controversial one. Okay, global standards. We have 3 big players. It's almost like a match, right? Who is going to win? ISSB, CSRD, so from Europe, or the SEC? We have 3 players. Who is going to actually be the winner of the global standards? Can we even have global standards? Is that even possible? Okay? And I just want to catch your attention to something, which is financial materiality and double materiality, right? Financial materiality means that people are worried about the impact of ESG in a company's P&L, right? In the company's enterprise value. Can these companies suffer a share price drop because they're not managing ESG issues. That's what financial materiality is. Okay? CSRD is about double materiality. Can this company impact the world? It's not just about how the share price is going to be impacted, but that is this company going to impact the world in a negative way? So that's what European is trying to do with European taxonomy. And that's why we have these sustainable activities, a huge regulation, more than 700 pages. And the SEC, there's only a consultation on climate. And the answer is, if anyone, is June 17 is the deadline for the consultation. And this famous Tesla, Elon Musk says, why are people taking my stock away from the ESG ETFs? I'm a good company, I'm saving the world. And they says, you know, these ESG ratings are based on how corporate profits are affected by ESG-related factors rather than gauging a company's real-world impact on society. I have impact, you should own me. And this is the problem of an ESG rating. So if you're buying an ESG rating, if you have an ESG score, you have to understand the purpose. Is that ESG score measuring the impact on the enterprise value, or is the ESG score measuring the impact in the real world? So let's take a look at some data. So this is our new ESG page. I just cut a fraction of the new ESG Go page on Bloomberg. You have MSCI rating, which is available to all. It's A, Sustainalytics rating, 28.54 medium. And then you have these EU SFDR fund exposures, right? How many Article funds own Tesla? And Article 9 is dark green, is the people that are really pursuing ESG at their core, right? Article 8 is lighter green, so you have 682 funds. But now let's put this into perspective and in percentages. So people truly believe Tesla is at the same level as Apple with 10%, which means that they truly believe that ESG can really help with this world impact. But let's take a look at Tesla from a different lens. What about if we look at the government scores? Is Tesla a good company or a bad company from a governance perspective? And I look at all the peers of Tesla. Tesla now is at the bottom with a score of 4.74 out of 10. So depending on how you look at a company, you have to understand how the score is computed and what you are truly putting your money into. It's not just about buying an ESG fund, it's about understanding which data was used for that ESG score. So, call for action. So this is me ending and passing over to Alexis soon, okay? My call for action is, you cannot manage what you don't measure, okay? This is extremely important. So this is where Bloomberg comes in. Because we're asking all of you in this room and the people that are outside and the people that will come into the conference today, you have to face the data. If you really want to change the world, you really have to face the data. And that's my commitment to you, is that with Bloomberg, we want to face the data. We want to bring the transparency to the market to ensure that you have the trust to put your money in places that truly will help us to transition to a better world. So thank you so much, and passing over to Alexis. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Patricia, for these very nice insights. Yeah, just one thing to add. I mean, I saw Germany ranked number 2 in terms of ESG bonds. The Green Party movement started in Germany 40 years ago. So globally speaking, Germany is on a good path in terms of fighting climate change. They have not started fighting climate, but they were against nuclear power plants, but somehow nuclear power plants get greenwashed by the European Commission. But nevertheless, Germany is at least at rank 2. Patricia has left, so there are no questions to ask. So thank you for... Okay, yeah, so thank you very much for attending.